Thank you all for tuning in. The following is a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you've got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people. Yes, it is I, your humble host, Bill Hatch the Third, coming to you live from the palatial studios of Bald Spots Productions here in the beautiful city of Malden, Missouri. And joining me from more than acceptable safe social distance are my guests for today. And I'm probably not going to say it right, but Udo Erasmus. Is it Udo or Udo?
You got it perfect.
I got it.
Udo.
Okay, Udo. Okay, cool. And Rustie MacDonald. How are you two doing today?
Awesome. Almost as good as you, and I'm fabulous.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Let's see. I always ask the same question of my guests first, and we'll go ladies first because I'm not too proud to be a sexist. So, Rustie, who are you reading today?
Who am I reading today?
Who are you reading right now?
Yeah.
Are you reading any books?
As a book? Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. That's different. I was like, all right, is this a psychic show? What kind of reading are we doing there, Bill? I am in the process of
reading as in books.
Yeah, read my palm.
Yeah, we're going to have fun. Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor.
Bob Proctor,
and
okay.
He's frozen.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Any key takeaways that you've gotten from it?
It's a nice reminder to, pace yourself and rethink your strategy. I think it's extremely important. It's the third time I've read the book. It's one of those times. It's the end of the year. How am I going to come into 2024 better than I was in 2023? Bigger, brighter, more fabulous than Udo. And so,
that's easy.
That's easy.
That should be easy.
So, I always like to read Bob Proctor at the end of every year to re-motivate myself for goal setting and so forth for the next year. Long story short.
Okay. No, that's a good reason to read Bob Proctor. Actually, it's funny. I'm restationing myself not by reading a book, but by writing one. I've started work on my book on leadership, and it's getting there. I think I'm up to like 38 pages. But it's gonna be a good one. The ultimate plan is to start a mastermind based on it, and so that's gonna be my new bread and butter. Repositioning oneself, getting ready to do new strategies and all that, very important. People seem to take it so casually. I'm just gonna put out some wishes into the universe, and that's gonna be my plan for the year. But they're not realizing that if they want something to actually happen, they have to sit down and do the work. It's not.
That's the part I hate the most.
Yeah,
sitting down and doing the work.
Yeah, unfortunately. Nothing happens by sending wishes out into the universe, that's for sure. Because if they were, I'd be in a completely different situation right now. Because I wouldn't have wished to be in southeastern Missouri where it's currently 41 degrees, and that's at noon. So speaking of my heater just turned off. How about you, Udo? What are you reading?
I'm famous for having a whole bunch of different things on the go all at the same time.
Okay.
Right, so right now I've a book called The Hidden Life of Trees. It was
Okay.
written by a German forester, and it's kind of like when people talk about the Wood Wide Web, the Wood Wide Web,
Okay.
like the internet, but it's the root systems of plants that cooperate in supporting each other.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And then I've got a book on herbs. I'm very interested in herbs and spices these days. And let's see, downstairs I have a book. I can't even remember the title of the book. I just got it from somebody as a present. And then there's a book called
Important.
And I've actually decided to get. I got a good translation of the Quran, so I'm actually going through that. I've just started because I've never looked at it, and I thought, you know what? I live in a world where that's a piece of literature that people read and aspire to, and so I should probably be slightly more knowledgeable about it than I am.
Yeah.
So I usually mostly read science and spirituality. Because spirituality is mostly about human nature. It's actually not about spirit; it's about human nature. Yeah. And we still don't have a teachable field of human nature after living on this planet for 200,000 years. We know more about our neighbors by gossip over the fence than we know about ourselves. And maybe self-knowledge is important.
Self-knowledge is important.
Maybe.
Know thyself.
And maybe Weiber's, exactly. Know thyself. He didn't say know everybody except yourself. He said know thyself. Right. Why did he say that? Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because you get a better quality of life when you're actually present in it. So that's, I like that kind of stuff. I'm writing a book as well. And it's a book on human nature and a book on total health.
Okay.
Health is
your book on forestry, the Wood Wide Web. I like that, but it's difficult to say. It reminded me of an example that Stephen Covey gave in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People about the redwoods. That they only stay standing, these super tall trees, and the only way they stay standing because of their shallow roots is because they interconnect. And he uses that as an example for interdependence, which was his ultimate goal, and for his students. And it's a great example for people, for sure. And I haven't read the entirety of the Quran, but I have looked at bits and chunks of it. One of these days I'll probably get around to reading it in its entirety. Just to be familiar.
It has to be a good translation.
Yeah,
it has to be a good translation because there, whenever you read stuff from other cultures, if the translation isn't good, then it just confuses you.
Yeah. So, which is why having multiple, I believe in having multiple translations of things when possible.
Yeah.
When we do our Bible studies, I usually use 2 or 3 translations when I'm looking at passages. Trying to get the differing viewpoints and intentions of the translators.
Yeah.
And so these people who are like, oh no, King James only. It's like, but they didn't have the whole picture.
Yeah. Well, none of them had the whole picture.
No, none of them had the whole picture. Well, it's almost impossible to translate. I'm sorry, Rusty?
Sorry?
Isn't perception 9/10 of the rule? So those who feel that King James is the only version, that's their perception, and they haven't stepped outside of that box. And I think it's really a disservice if you don't cross-reference your resources.
Because different languages have different meanings for different words depending on context, especially languages like Greek. That's why so many people believe there's no such thing as a good translation. But yeah, no, that's an interesting set of books to be reading, Udo, for sure. Is there, other than is it just that there's so many Muslims in the world that you're trying to relate to, or that you're going into the Quran, or is there another reason that you're looking at it?
More for language for me than for content, because my content, I'm pretty happy with my content. Because I do a stillness practice. I've been doing it for 50 years. And in that stillness practice, I get my own input from life. You get in touch with life, the energy that keeps you alive, which is solar, as fraction of solar energy. When it's in the body, we call it life. And when we go subjective on it, then it's called the master. So those are they're all the same, right? And life, which weighs nothing, runs everything in your body 24/7, 365. And we always look away from it. Why? Probably we should spend some time looking into it. And that's what they said, right? The kingdom of heaven is within you. Yeah. Seek first the kingdom, and everything else will fall into place. That's a paraphrase, obviously. Right? Yeah. Well, how many people actually do it? We're supposed to do it first, and we usually put it last when we run out of options and distractions. Right?
Do you think that we actually teach how to versus talk about how to?
Do I teach?
No. Do you feel that we as a species actually teach the ways to the kingdom of heaven versus mildly talk about it, demand it, encourage it, but there's no real tools or training to get to the kingdom
I don't think we even really encourage it. We just give it lip service.
Yeah, exactly. Mostly. That was my point. Yeah.
Right. But as an individual, you can go deeper if you want to. And I came out of the Second World War, so we had everything stripped from us except our life. So we lost the culture, we lost the farm, we lost the house, we lost the community, we lost so we literally, escaped with a handful of silver spoons, right? And the clothes on our back. And so I grew up kind of without culture. And I wasn't that interested in culture, because if that's the result of culture, why would I be that interested in it? So I was always trying to understand about life. So I went into biology for life, psychology for soul. But you don't learn about life in biology. You learn about form and function.
Right.
And you learn, and ultimately you learn about life by getting present in your own life. Bringing your focus into the space your body occupies, and actually making the time to make that a study for yourself. And then my days always go better when I do that first. So anyway, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about omega-3s, right?
I thought we were talking about Lemony Snickets, but yeah, that was deep, man.
Well, yeah, people don't spend enough time. Well, I feel people spend too much time looking at themselves, but I can see that they're not looking into themselves, to see the issues. And instead of looking at themselves, I feel people should be looking at others. But wouldn't you say in some ways that looking into others could be a pathway to looking into ourselves? Kind of as long as we willfully do it.
I think science has already uncapped the amazing innate need that we have from infancy to mimic our surroundings. So we mimic the gestures our parents use. We mimic our environment so that we can understand how to navigate through it. What we lack and have always lacked is an innate ability to just be at peace. We're constantly in this fight or flight hippocampus world of I need more, 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 I need more. And that just cycles and cycles and cycles. And, you know, I'm pushing 2 quarters, which is a lot of quarters to push at this time of my life. And I'm one of the last generations that was forced to play outside and build forts and come up with strategies on how to hide all of the bodies and things that we did as kids so we didn't get in trouble, you know? You know, and now you go through the grocery store and the shelves talk to you and they want you to buy more and your grocery cart talks to you. Udo, I don't know where you are, but I'm assuming you're not in the US. Everything is very talky here. You know, you get gas.
Everything in Canada is
it getting that way?
Everything in Canada is like the US.
I love Canada.
Of course.
Anyway,
I joke to people. I tell them I live in the temporarily communist country north of the U.S. border.
Ouch. Anyway, that's for the next show, Bill.
Most people think that's really funny, but it's not really funny.
No, it isn't.
It's definitely a long topic, but so even our gas tanks are telling us as we are filling up at I don't know what petrol is in Canada, but here it's around $3.99 a gallon, and so we're constantly being told fight or flight,
we're
fight or flight, more. You're at 270.
Yeah.
We're not given the opportunities or the tools that we need to really sit back and say, okay, who am I? What do I want in life? How am I showing up today? And though there are people like me who preach it from the hilltops, we get drowned out by the sounds of more, buy, here. And shiny's the big thing, you know, shiny car, shiny house, shiny family.
Yeah.
I actually watched a documentary the other night on Hollywood prenups where there are prenuptial agreements where if you gain a certain amount of weight, you get divorced. It's just, that's the bottom line. You cannot be heavier than what that person wants to be. And that's a very frightening existence to be in right now where there's so much superfluous and surface crap. Can I say crap, Bill? That's okay.
Sure. I don't
You just did.
Darn it to heck, you can't say crap.
You know, so we don't actually listen to individuals who are like, here's an olive branch. Here is, you know, good eating. Udo, you and I could definitely talk for hours on herbalism. It's something that I'm fascinated with. And I really think that we don't pay enough attention to, but how can we, when we're constantly being punched left and right everywhere we go with nonsensical surface, buy, fight, flight, more.
Yeah. It's funny. We started out a little Bible and religious, but as you were saying that, you know, what came to mind was be still and know. You know, of course, the rest of that is be still and know that I am God. But we don't know how to be still. You know, and
although there was a time when we knew. Yeah. When you were in your mother's womb. When you were in your mother's womb, you spent 9 months in deep meditation. You know, you didn't know there was an outside to go to. You didn't have senses that would take you out there. There was nothing to do and nowhere to be, and everything was taken care of. So what were you doing at that time? It was the boringest possible situation, but you weren't bored. You were in bliss. You were just hanging out. Your focus was inside at rest, in its source, in life, or in awareness. And then when we came out, everything changed. And then we had to go out. Our senses took us out into the world to get to know it for survival. It's important. But going back has to be deliberate, and that's the problem. Senses always take us out, and people use that to get our attention. What takes you back? The only thing that takes you back is heartache. Heartache pulls you out of your head, gets you grounded, puts you into your body. And the heartache began when we got disconnected from ourselves after we were born. In the process of bringing our focus out, we lost our connection of our focus in. So heartache is the starting point for the journey home.
I would argue that we are supposed to be disconnected to some degree because life is about experience. And one thing that aggravates me to no end, in my old days when I was a special ed teacher, there are so many parents that don't allow their child to be a child and experience life. So I've seen parents reprimand their children for being wiggly and swirly and fantastical. And that's what they're supposed to do, because we disconnect to learn how to reconnect. And part of that is through experience. And when we stop engaging in experience and we tone out emotional availability to that experience and feeling the hot, the cold, the love, the anger, the sad, the whatever, and really feeling it, we can't reconnect. And I think that's back to what our largest handicap is as a species. I heard a quote once where we're the only species on the entire planet that does everything that we can to consume and destroy our grandchildren's future. Think about that. That's not a way of reconnecting. It's not a way of getting back into the center force of who you are as a conscious being in a togetherness way. Now, on a political stance, or I would say it's political, we do that with intention so that we have constant consumerism, so that we have shinier things. And smart people can figure out how to make that happen. I think we need to refocus. I think something has to majorly shift in order for us to collaborate and become back into the wholeness that we should be as a unit. That's all of us. Because there's just so much noise and so much distraction and so much urging that id part of our internal biome to buy, consume, and numb, rather than to sit in peace and wholeness and absorb the experience of what it's like to be in this form, so that we can go back to where we are supposed to be, which is in pure love. My theory, but I'm a girl.
Right. Well, no, I can totally see that. We've talked on the show. Go ahead, Udo.
Yeah, it's not theory, because I agree with you.
Yay! I got a question, Udo.
Yeah.
But I think even as a bio,
what I was going to say is,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Science, and
That's
you
okay.
know that there are scientific experiments that show that your cells will actually multiply and regenerate in your neurons. There's so much excitement and so much untapped energy because we constantly numb and avoid life's experiences. And we know it intellectually, we know it spiritually. We have books upon books, the Walking Torah, the Quran, the Bible, Old, New, First, Fifth, 12th version. And we have it in Greek mythology. We have it in a ton of shamanistic work around the world. And they all speak the same language. All of these places have the same conversation. And yet we still do everything that we can to avoid hearing what we need to do. Bill.
No.
Or at least avoiding doing what we have to do.
Yeah.
Fair.
Because what we have to do is what we have to.
looking within oneself can be scary.
If you look, if you look inside your head.
Yeah.
There's nothing scary in a human being except their thoughts.
Right.
Fact. And thoughts are based off of
perception.
But
one of the things we've talked about before is, and I think this is relevant to what Rusty was saying, is that children have infinite potential until they encounter the adults they feel they need to emulate. And the adults limit the children. At 10 years old, a child could want to be an astronaut, cowboy, painter, and it makes perfect sense to them until somebody comes in and says, "No, you can't do that. You can't be an astronaut. You can't be a research scientist, or you can't." And it's. No, I don't know how intentional it is on the part of the adult to be limited, to be a limiting force. As much as it is that they're unintentionally pushing their experiences onto the child, like accents. You get your accent because you're trying to emulate the way your parents speak, and they're not intentionally giving you an accent. They just are. I wonder how much. How much do you think that feeds into the other parts?
I think
with people
mimicking and the innate need to mimic so that you can survive in your environment, on top of ego's perception of protection. So for me, I will be the first to confess, my life goal, one of the many as a child, because I'm a dreamer, was to be a rockette. I have legs for days. I thought I was going to be the fabulous rockette in New York City, right? What did my parents say? You have 2 left feet. So I'm just... But, squash that dream, I think in their mind was to protect me, or maybe in their subconscious, they were jealous that I might be more successful than them, which to me, that makes sense for that generation. For my generation, I want my daughter to be more successful than me. Like, kudos to her. Get it done. Do better than your mama. But I think for that generation, they didn't have the same kind of consciousness or awareness and authentic awareness of themselves to allow children to be what they want to be. So what? You want to be a rockette? Go and do it. You've got 2 left feet. We'll get you a right one someday. I don't think as we've evolved,
maybe you need 2 left feet to be a rockette.
Right? Maybe it works better on camera. Stage left.
Yeah. So I think that I would say that as a species, we as adults have not done our homework. And the homework is because we came out of this idyllic place. And I think the story of the expulsion from Eden is really the story of, pregnancy, pre-birth, birth, and the birth is the expulsion, actually. So the stories are stories of human nature. They're stories of our story, right? And in the story, or the prodigal son, who leaves home to explore the world and eventually finds his way back. And I think it's heartache that calls him to come back home. Well, as adults, we haven't really done our journey back home to ourselves. And any limits we have, because we are not unlimited or in touch with the unlimitedness of our being, we then model that for the kids, and we shut that off for them. And they then have to do more work to try and overcome that. But I think it's because we're not doing our homework.
I think
you know, it's like what is the homework? You know, the homework is to sit still, do nothing, become present to being rather than doing, become present to being, and feel what that feels like, because in that is your peace. In that is unconditional empowering love. That is our nature. That is our core nature. But if you're not in touch with it and you're not feeling it, then you can't bring it to expression in the world either. It's not just with our kids, but in how we're wrecking the environment and how we're doing all the crazy things that we're doing, how we're dealing with other nations. You know, it all comes out of a discontent that comes from our disconnection. And we're trying to fix it out there when it can only be fixed in here as individuals. But one by one, not as a global thing.
Don't you concede to the possibility that we are fighting our spiritual? It's a dichotomy. So we have a part of our brain that's wired a certain way, which biologically we know is true. And we have our spiritual needs, which is wired a certain way, but we also know also very true, tearing at each other. And then we have an environmental push to keep this momentum going, to keep us separated from combining and being at peace with our innate fight or flight cave person brain. And I think that's where we're disconnected. We don't pay attention to how we break ourselves as children. We don't. So as children, we see the wonderful, fantastic fairies, kings, queens, possibilities. And then the bully kid comes along. And then that starts breaking down that fantastical part. And you become separate from that spiritual side. And we don't do a good job in the beginning to teach that it's okay to continue in that spiritual world. We support boys with guns and fighting and building and, you know, tinkering around, and girls have to have tea sets, and we put these obligations and stereotypes and perceptions on them. So then they lose that ability to tap into that creative oneness, that joy, that, you know, chasing butterflies and just feeling wonderful about doing that. And then as adults, we continue to chip away at that beautiful piece of childhood and lock it somewhere. And I think it's really interesting, and it would be a fantastic documentary, or thousands, to uncover why we can't allow the spiritual side to blossom, why we're so homed in on control and rules and regulations and shiny things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
Yeah, makes sense from a survival point of view, because the whole externalization of our focus is about survival. Because every time something changes, you're attracted to it, and you have to assess it. Is this friend? Is this foe? Or is it irrelevant?
Right. Exactly.
And you're doing it all the time. Every time something moves, what's that? What's that? What's that? And so for survival, after we were born, we did that, and it's pretty automatic because we're set up to learn that easily, right? So and we don't know that we're losing ourselves, you know, into this is like gain the world, lose your soul. That's the journey of childhood. That's the journey of coming into the world, right? Because you were in the soul in your mother's womb. I call it the Buddha tank, right?
The Buddha tank.
In the Buddha tank, you were just in deep meditation, just hanging out, you know, everything was fine, right? And then we get into survival, and there was nothing about survival. You know, you were just in the light, right? Whatever is the energy that makes you alive, you were in that.
Yeah,
because there wasn't any place to go. So now we're in survival mode. And we're in survival mode with a whole bunch of people who are also in survival mode, because they also went through this normal, natural, necessary process of externalizing.
Mm-hmm.
And they never found their way back. So they can't tell us how to find our way back. That's the world we live in. And who were the people who taught the way back? Those were the wise ones. Those were the masters. My view is like all of the great masters were teachers of human nature. And they taught people, and I would put Socrates in that arena as well. His know thyself, right? What does that mean? Know thyself. In order to know thyself, you have to sit down, sit still, stop doing all your external stuff, and find your way back to what it feels like to be alive, what it feels like to be present in the space that your body occupies.
We need to experience
right? And
life.
because we as a society haven't done that, and the teachers of human nature all said, do this first, right? We don't do it. We put it last. And usually where we start to put it first is when disaster strikes. So we're basically creating the disasters we need in order to, we're creating our own lessons is what we're doing. Now, I only know that because I came out of the
coming to God experiment. Yeah, we're, as a species, we're very good about going, oh God, this is happening.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So, but the kids come into that, and that's what they're modeled. So they model themselves because, they don't remember that there was another place to be, and they don't have the power as children to go there and insist on it. And then we forget, and then we live like the whole human race is living in forgetfulness of the awesomeness of life. And then they fight about all kinds of trivial junk.
Well, I think some of it has to do with you talked about that when we were in the womb, we're bathed in the light, that we're in the light. And what I think some of it is that we're trying, we do all these external things, get the shiny objects, even seemingly good things like protecting the environment and social justice and whatnot, trying to fill the hole that's left because we're not in the light anymore. We're trying to make ourselves at peace. We're trying to make ourselves happy. And we keep doing it with all these things. But really what we need to do is come back inside and get reconnected with that light, with the higher power, whatever that may be. Of course, for me, that's God. And I gain my peace from that, from him. And, and all, but yeah, wouldn't you say that that's a lot of it is just trying to reconnect?
I think it's more that we are divinely self-saboteurs. And I think we want to reconnect to something that we vaguely remember. It's a memory that's there, that's ticking and calling us, but we don't know how to get there because there's so many squirrels. I call it squirrel syndrome. All of us have squirrels. There's so many distractions. And until we stop, like Udo said, and take that time to master silence and master a little bit of depravity. Like, you don't have to have this all the time, and you don't have to be in a noise-filled room. I remember during COVID, and I was doing my podcast, I actually had a lot of people that were very upset and like suicidal because New York City was extremely quiet. And, how do you talk to somebody who feels like they need that noise to feel normal when that noise is actually a distraction from your own normalcy? And so it's a higher level of thinking, but it's not. It's a normal way of being. We've just adjusted our sails to fill the void, as you said, Bill, with nonsense that's actually depriving us from the goodness that we are.
I think discontent is our driving force, and discontent comes from the disconnection. And so what we're trying to do is, I've talked to some like super rich people. I talked to a guy who had an airport named after him. This is like a serious guy, right? And I told him, so look, this is how your life goes. You come up with an idea, consciously or subconsciously, or even unconsciously. You think, you hope that when you succeed, you will feel whole again. You will feel okay again. Everything will be right when you succeed. And then you work your ass off for 20 years to get it done. And then when you get it done, you get 3 days where you say, I did it, I did it, I did it, I did it. And then on the fourth day, you're depressed. Yeah, he says, on the fourth day, you're depressed. He says, well, I wouldn't call it depressed. I would call it let down. Hello? Right? So, and he said, yeah. And then you say, well, maybe I didn't think big enough, or maybe I was thinking in the wrong direction. So then you come up with another thing, and then you do it again. And every time you do it, you get your 3 days of yay, yay. And then there's still something always missing. And you actually feel it here in your chest.
Yeah.
And you call it by lots of names because any loss will trigger it. If grandma dies, you feel it here. Dog runs away, you feel it here. Your wife dumps you, or your girlfriend dumps you, or your boyfriend dumps you, you feel it here. So there's all these triggers to this one feeling. And the trigger is not the cause of that feeling. The cause of that feeling is your disconnection, your natural, normal, necessary disconnection from yourself. And you haven't found your way back because you're trying to fix it out there when the reconnection has to happen inside.
Yeah. We're self-sabotaging.
That's the discontent that runs the world, and it's destructive. Mm-hmm. It's destructive. That discontent is destructive. That's why we're destroying the environment. That's why we're destroying our relationships. I mean, we're literally, that's why we're destroying our health. It's all comes from disconnection to discontent to what can I do that'll get me feeling cared for?
Right.
And it never happens on the outside because it's an inside job.
Yeah.
So in regards to
now what do I do with myself?
How do we go back to a time? Was there ever a time, and I don't think there has been, but maybe, where we were fully centered? I know some cultures raise their children and their environments are very inclusive for meditation and self-focus in order to be better humans that day or the next day. I know in America, we're squirrels on crack and having to race everywhere and have the best, it's loud and noisy and messy and it's getting ready to just combust. Because a species can't survive like that. We're like rabid cockroaches. How do we work collaboratively, collectively to get us back into a time, or maybe it's a new time that we create, where people start honoring who they are in presence instead of trying to fill this void that they know. We all know what the void is, but we just don't do what we need to do to get back into that position. We're so easily distracted. How do we pull that in? How do we rein that in?
I have a thought about that.
Okay.
How we rein it in is like whenever you have heartache. Huh?
I said, no way, not you, Udo.
What's that?
Whenever you have heartache.
No, not me. Okay. When you have heartache, what do we do with heartache? We don't like it, right? Because it hurts. It's like that. It's painful. It's uncomfortable. It's uneasy, right? So what do? We distract ourselves from it. And there's 1,000 ways to distract ourselves. Or we deny it, or we ignore it, or we try to explain it away, or we blame it on somebody. And I think that pretty much covers what we do with heartache. What I say to people is when you feel heartache, don't look for heartache. It's a natural occurrence in everybody's life. I have never met a person who doesn't know what heartache is.
Yeah.
Never. I've never met a person except one Japanese guy who said, I never have that. And then halfway through our talk, he said, oh yeah, I do have heartache. So when you have heartache, what I say is, okay, instead of trying to make it go away, sit with it, be with it, feel it, accept it. Don't judge it. Just feel it. Won't kill you. Might make you cry, but just be with it. Because that far behind the heartache, less than a hair's breadth behind the heartache, is your reconnection to yourself. Mm-hmm. So the journey is literally a journey from heartache, which is our starting point, disconnected. That's why our heart aches, because the trigger is not the cause. The cause is our disconnection. Right. So from the disconnection to our wholeness is less than a hair's breadth of movement of our focus.
So are you implying that
sit with heartache, sit in heartache?
You're implying that in order to collectively get back into the center of our consciousness as a group, that we have to acknowledge our heartache, whatever that means to that individual, at all times, or more regularly, in order to reconnect?
No, only when you have it. Only when you have it.
That's interesting.
Because it's a teacher. Because heartache, actually, the function of heartache, it's like thirst for drinking water. Thirst makes drinking water relevant. Hunger makes food relevant. Because if you're not hungry, then you can just have a food fight too, right?
That's always fun. You can do that.
The same way heartache makes stillness relevant. Heartache makes coming home relevant. Heartache is the thirst of the heart to feel fulfilled. That's what heartache is in its nature. It came from disconnection, and it's fixed by reconnection. And that's not a group think. That's an individual journey. And when 8 billion people understand that and sit with it, a lot of things are going to change on this planet. But
so
I can only do it for one person.
How do we collectively change the direction of humanity when humanity is so stuck in this noisy, busy, self-harming, self-saboteur place? Like, how do we, you have your way of helping one person. I have mine, Bill has his. But as a collective, I think that's the only way we're really going to nip this in the bud. And I don't know how to unravel people's...
What I'm thinking
lot
of... Oh, go ahead.
My answer is we don't. This is individual. But people have heartache, and there are teachers. But it's always individual. There's not like, what's his name? Joe Biden is going to save us.
Right.
The savior is inside of every human being. Life is the savior. Breath is the savior. Individual. The leader, life is the leader. There are 8 billion people. If they were in touch with their own life, they would be led by the same leader as everybody else. The same leader for our leadership model. Our leadership model is completely antiquated and is completely non-functional. The leader is inside, and we can all follow the same leader from inside. What is that leader? Unconditional empowering love.
No.
Also called life. There's the leader. Life does everything in your body, right? You eat, once you swallow, you don't even know what's going on anymore. Life takes care of it, does the digestion, pulls in the nutrients, distributes them to the cells wherever they're needed, runs the whole... Life has always run the whole show, right? And it's not just the human show, but also the animal show and the plant show. And life, as solar energy, has always run that show, right? And we are children of the sun, or children of the master.
One thing I'm thinking that would be helpful, and this is from some of the things that Udo has been saying, and you too, Rusty, is to turn back the clock. If we had the heart of children, if we had individually had the heart of a child, then that unconditional love would come forth, because we're not limited by ideas for oh, this is the way politics are, this is the way culture needs to be, this is the way, it's like you hate your enemy and you love your neighbor, and all those kinds of things. You just, because children are innocent of these things. If we could turn back the clock and become children again, at least in our hearts, not necessarily in our brains, our minds anyway, then I think we would collectively be in a better position. Because children, while children do get into fights, they're these very short-term things. It's not this serious 1,000 years of battle, kind of thing where, it's like, oh, I hate you because your ancestor killed one of my ancestors, or anything like that. It's, I'm fighting you because you took my toy. And once I have my toy back, then I'm going to stop fighting, or I might stop fighting before that, realizing, it's not that big a deal. But children can have, like my niece and nephew can just have this utter love for each other, for other people, and they haven't been taken out of that yet. And so I think I don't know, what are some thoughts on turning back the clock? Is it possible?
Well, I would say the heart of the child is within every adult. The heart of the child never goes away. We just lose connection with it. The heart of the child, our nature, like life's nature as unconditional, empowering love, never changes. But where's the focus? And it's the issue as where the focus goes. That's why I like heartache, because heartache pulls your focus out of your head, grounds you, makes you simple. You're just feeling something. And you're close to the space that you need to explore where you actually live, right?
Yeah.
So that's why heartache is so powerful as a starting point, right? But the heart of the child never leaves. The peace that is the universal essence of everything in the universe, it's everywhere, never leaves. It's always there. But you have to bring your focus to the core of your being. That's where your access to an all-encompassing universal peace exists. Bringing your awareness back has to have, it's kind of, there has to be a reason for doing that, because we like to have, goals, right?
Right.
But what's the reason? My heart aches. I'm going to sit with my heartache. I'm going to find my way to the love, to the peace, because there's no heartache in love and there's no heartache in peace. So we're sitting in the solution, but our focus is elsewhere. And that's the only change change everything is to change the focus. I mean, that's true. Everybody says that, right? But that also applies to the internal journey. What is in the master is in every human being. What the masters spoke about, because they actually did a practice of stillness and spent time by themselves. And they spoke from that feeling to that feeling in other people. And when it resonated, people said, how do I get more of it? Well, then they showed them a way to do it. They encouraged them to take stillness time.
You're making me think of, I have a book I need to start. Well, I've started reading it, but a book on early Christians, and specifically on people who, the first monks, and how they isolated themselves and what came of it. And and it's making me think of that kind of, that we need some kind of isolation from the rest of the world to be able to find what's truly important, what's in our heart of hearts. And
and I think there's two ways.
But we use isolation as a punishment.
What was that, Rusty?
Well, I just think there's two ways of going about that. One, you have to be self-aware enough to know that sitting alone is okay, and that being in solitude is a safe and wonderful place to explore who you are as an individual. Because when you come out of that, you become a better individual, and you're more authentic, and you're more real, and you're more able and capable of being present in the world with less nonsense. The problem with that is that we have so much fear that we've instilled on people about, oh, you don't want to die alone. You don't want to be the old cat lady. And there's so much stigmatism about having that beautiful solitude. Well, it's true, and you go to your holiday dinners, and the parents are constantly saying, oh, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have children? You don't want to live alone. You don't want to be alone. And so we've stereotyped and stigmatized that solitude so that we stay entrapped in this very noisy, chaotic, squirrel-filled world where we never get back to our center. And I think if we start proselytizing, to use a beautiful word, of the beauty of being in solitude, the beauty of having quiet, the beauty of going to the movies by yourself, or getting to know that stillness within who you are as an individual, when you do get into a group of people and you are present, you're able to be fully present. Athletes are, some of our major athletes, they're notorious for having solitude. They work on their craft. They work on who they are. They work on their focus. And we don't give enough credit where credit is due. And that has a lot to do with sitting with yourself in silence and really hearing what's coming out of your consciousness as well as what's surrounding you. And I don't know how people like us can scream that off of the rooftops more and more and more, that solitude is a good thing. It's not. It's a humbling experience that allows you to be authentically you.
Yeah. Contrary to what we've been told, solitary confinement is not the worst punishment in the world. It's actually the place to find your magnificence.
Fact.
So how are we gonna shout it from the rooftop? That's Bill's job.
Yeah.
That's
all right, Bill.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
No pressure,
right? That's why we're here. So maybe somebody will hear something, say, oh yeah, why did I believe it when they told me that being alone is a bad thing? I love solitude. I love it. I 100%. I have to have time to myself.
Well, I think you have to be ready for it.
And what you just said, what you just said, Rusty, is that you become a better person. 100%. When I wake up every morning, I will spend an hour just going into that space. Mm-hmm. And I get up, and sometimes I don't experience much, but my day goes better. Mm-hmm. I come out, I literally come out more solid, more centered, more capable, more able to respond to what's going on simply and effectively. And it's like unbelievably, because and I can help in way more ways when I'm fully present, because I have a lot of talents that are not top of mind. Right. I mean, and I say that's my experience of myself, but that's true for every human being. We have way more. We can if we want to help, we can help way better when we take that time for ourselves to actually be fully present in all of our being.
I think it allows us to be much more compassionate too when we do come into situations where you have to sit back and pause and go, that's really your perception. That's really how you feel about this. This is interesting. So you're not being reactive, you're not being invasive, and you're not being aggressive. You've taken that time for yourself. You know who you authentically are and how you're presenting yourself. And sometimes when you get into situations, which we all do, it doesn't matter if it's that person who cuts you off on the highway and you really want to flip them off, but you're like, I'm fine. I don't need to be faster than him. And it's taking that time for yourself, which allows you to interact on a daily with people who obviously haven't taken time for themselves, but it allows you not to be reactive. And to me, that's volumes of self-help right there, and volumes of healing that our world could use by taking that hour, go to the gym or meditate or do yoga, but have that hour of whatever it is in the morning to just be you, focused on you and making yourself whole. So when you do show up, you show up a little bit more present, a little bit more stepped back, a little bit more, okay, I understand. And you can hold the light in the space for that person without being reactive. And we are so stimulated as a species right now that all we know are knee-jerk reactions, because every 2 to 3 seconds we're being hit with some sort of stimuli. And our brains are starting to act like crackheads, like literally on scientific scale. The neurons are just all the time. So when you do take that time in the beginning, it's going to be really weird, because your brain has to slow down and like, I'm not being hit with something. This is weird. And in all regards, coming from a trauma survivor, trauma brain is real. And whether you've actually experienced heartbreak, like Udo says, or you're going on a retreat for a weekend for the first time in your life and everything's silent and you don't have access to any kind of internet or social media, your brain is going to react traumatically. And so unwiring is a huge thing. And starting out 1 hour every day, whether morning, noon, whatever, of just solitude and quiet will really render a whole new world of possibilities as a person showing up and as a person not reacting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We have to sit through our withdrawal from our addiction to activity, thinking or doing. And we're supposed to be human beings, but we've become human doings.
Fact.
But being is more important than doing, because you can be without doing, but you can't do without being. So being is your foundation. And that's also where your peace lives. And if you're not taking time to be in touch with your foundation, you're actually living without foundation. And then literally everything stupid and everything smart has the same value, because you don't have a foundation to compare it to.
Yeah,
I'm not saying anything you haven't been saying, by the way, Rusty.
Yeah,
I know you're just saying it more
love of others.
That's debatable. I disagree with you.
Oh, where's my
No,
chair?
as I was gonna say, love of others has to be a relative thing. Being able to express that love, to show others, to help others, to help the world, to save, humanity. It has to be a relative thing based on how you love yourself. And you have to know yourself to be able to do that. And so, so you do definitely need to get back in touch with that inner self, with that heart of hearts. And I can totally see that.
I think that the whole foundation premise of any kind of religion or exercise of spiritual outside of your bodiness that we've tried to articulate for thousands and thousands of years, every single one, whether, we have 2,250 religions, certified religions in the world. They're all very different, except a few things. There's a handful of things that make them all the same. One, there's always some form of prayer. It could be chanting. It could be actual praying, like most Christians do. It could be, running, or some sort of meditative behavior that's repetition. And I think if you were to take a strainer to all religions, that's the largest piece that we all could do very easily and are told to do in various forms. Same day, different skirt, right? And it's to have that time to be silent within yourself and create something, whether it's energy, momentum. And it's fascinating to me how we miss the connection of the value of prayer, chant, whatever, which is in every single religion. And we don't connect that this process brings you back into the wholeness of who you're supposed to be in your being. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I want to respond to what Bill was talking about in terms of loving, right?
Yeah.
My major relationship, I saw the love in her. She saw the love in me. So I thought my love was going to come from her. I mean, I wasn't really conscious at the time, but I'm conscious about it now, right? And she thought she was going to get her love from me, but neither she could get in touch with the love in her to bring it into the relationship. Neither I could get in touch with the love in me to bring into the relationship. Well, when then, if neither of you can get to the love within you to bring it into the relationship, where the hell in the relationship is the love supposed to come from?
Right.
And needless to say, that relationship ended because we wanted it from the other person and neither of us had done our homework. No. I tell people, before you're ready for a relationship, you need to have a relationship with your own life.
Yeah.
You can't be trusted to have a relationship. You can't be trusted in a relationship with another person if you haven't done that homework. But, like me, they don't listen.
Nope.
Right?
Yeah, totally. You can't get love or happiness or fulfillment from outside. Those are things that come from within, and either from within you personally, if that's your belief system, or from within you because of your connection with your higher power, with God, whatever that may end up being, for sure.
Well, your individual essence is love.
Mm-hmm.
As life. Your individual essence is love. When I'm in touch with my life, I feel so cared for that literally it's not about me anymore. So I take time for me to get to the point where it's not about me anymore. And literally when I feel cared for, then it kind of like is, well, okay, where can I help? That's the only thing left to do in life when I feel cared for, is to help where I can.
Yeah.
To do what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Maybe make the biggest splash for good that I can make in the time I have. But if I'm not feeling that, then it's always, where am I going to get my love from? What do I need to do that'll take care of me? Whether it's money or whatever. It's the same. But it's like, and that's why for me, that's why it's so important to take that time for myself to be in that love, to be in that peace, and then bring that into the world.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
That's pretty cool. Okay, well, we've gone more than an hour, and it's a lot to swallow all at once, and so we're gonna have to do this again.
So much for the topic of omega-3s.
That's right.
I know.
Get your omega-3. Okay, so let's go. Let's see, Rusty. What should people be finding out about you? What's your project that you want people to? What do you want people
from me? No, I don't want anybody to buy anything. I want them to take time every morning for themselves. I will be a keynote speaker at an event in Hinman, Kentucky on the weekend of March 15th through 17th. It is a very unique event for me. I've never been to one of these events. It's Sportsman, Bushcraft, and Survival Expo. And I'll be sharing with everybody my experience of losing everything during Hurricane Ian. So that'll be an interesting event. Normally, I speak a lot about trauma and bouncing back and coping mechanisms. And in a way, it's the same, but it's a different audience. So I'm going to be surrounded by people who have been on Naked and Afraid, which I guess is a TV show. I haven't had TV in 22 years, so I'm assuming it's a show. survivalist or survivor. Yeah, so those kinds. It's for a camper. These guys are diehard campers, so I'm really excited to meet everybody there and maybe learn how to, shoot an arrow or something. I don't know. It's kind of exciting. It's a prepper.
Cool.
So, in Henman, Kentucky, at the sports complex, March 15th through 17th. Kentucky. So come on down, shake hands, rub elbows, and maybe we can throw a few axes.
Cool. That sounds like fun. Yeah, we just got an axe throwing place here in town. We don't have a lot of things, but we have an axe throwing place.
Okay, Udo, really well
what's your project you want? Oh, yeah.
Well, the project I'm working on is I'm 81, so before I check out, I want to do a couple of things. I want to turn total health into a teachable field based in nature and human nature, and I want to turn human nature into a teachable field. Because we've been living here for a very long time, and it's the one thing we've never actually done.
Yeah.
Except hints through the great teachers. And so that's what I'm working on. What pays my rent is I work with an oil that is an omega-3 oil, which I thought we were going to talk about. And I work with digestive enzymes and probiotics. And if you go to florahealth.com/Udo, and then you can have a look at what the products are.
Okay, I'll be sure to
maybe another time we can talk.
Yeah. I'll be sure to put your link up in the description so people can find it easily.
Yeah, and maybe at some point we could do that as a topic, because that'll easily take up an hour.
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
If you want to do another one,
sure. Yeah, anytime.
But I love this. I love this topic. This is like I came out of the Second World War. I was a refugee kid in the Second World War. Lost everything, and I've been obsessed with how can people live in harmony. Came to me when I was 6 years old, when I heard our adults argue, and it always made me uneasy. I was very shy, right? And it occurred to me, man, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And this little cocky voice, I'm going to find out how. 6 years old, didn't know how complicated everything is, right? That's been my driver all my life, pretty much.
Okay.
That's
cool. That's pretty good driver. Yeah. Okay. So, so before I close, any final words for the nice people?
Go out there and do something great.
Yes.
Do something great.
You didn't exist for billions of years. Now you get maybe 100 years if you're lucky. Then you won't exist for billions of years. Make the most of this incredible gift that you have.
Facts.
Called life in human form.
Yes, definitely. Make the most of what you got. Okay, well, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. I'd definitely like to thank my special guests today, and go check out their stuff. The links are in the description, so you can just click and go, because we like it when it's easy, because it feeds our crack brain. So remember to be safe out there. Wash your hands. Yep. Wash your hands and stay tuned for the ending credits. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. I'd like to thank our producer, my beloved mother, Eileen Hatch. I, of course, am your humble host. I'd also like to thank my special guests, Rustie MacDonald, host of Living and Thriving with Rustie, author and speaker, and Udo Erasmus, author of Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill. Support the show if you feel so led over on patreon.com. We're known as Bald Spots Pro. Don't you dare miss YWL Online. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever fine podcasts are offered. Be sure to tune in next time when my special guests will be Mark David Gerson, author of the Legend of Quintana series and a bunch of books to help writers. He's also a writing coach. And Jeff Rasley, a philanthropist, author of A Hitchhiker's Big Adventure, and the president of 2 charitable foundations. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you've got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people. If you or someone you know needs support now, call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org. That is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline here in the United States.